evening, everybody. I just wanted to touch base with you guys because I haven't made a video in a while, and I know how much everybody's missing Fireside with Real. Again, not by a fire, but down here in my Aero Lab. I just wanted to touch on a hunt that I had about a week ago now, a little over a week ago. Decided to make the trip up to my family's property up north and drove up in the morning, bright and early, got in the tree stand way before dawn, which was amazing. Got to see the woods wake up and couldn't have had a better morning. Just hung out in the tree, didn't see any deer, saw some squirrels, heard an owl, had a great morning. And then went up to the house, had some lunch, and then came back out for the evening sit. It was a little warm, wasn't too bad. It was actually, I got a suntan sitting in the tree. It was a good evening sit. And then it was about 5:30. I had a doe and her yearling come out, and they came out into the food plot and started working their way towards me. And I got excited because I'm ready to put some more meat in the freezer because my venison's starting to run low. And the doe presented me a nice broadside shot at 28 yards, which is completely within my wheelhouse. I practice most days out to 50 and had no issues in confidence-wise for me taking the shot. And I decided I was going to pull the trigger on her. And unfortunately, I made the mistake that I thought she was a lot more settled in than she was. Turns out she was a little bit more on edge than I had anticipated, and I did not allot for how much she was actually going to duck the string. This doe, when I touched off the arrow, I mean, she ducked more than I think I've ever seen a deer duck in my life. Because they get a vote, right? They're not just going to stand there broadside like a foam target and catch an arrow. When they hear an arrow in the air, they're freaking out. And so she ducked down and took what, if she hadn't moved, what would have been probably a 10-ring shot and would have been meat on ice, and turned it into arrow clipping the top of her back and her living to see another day. There were a couple tools that were in my quiver for this hunt that helped me to understand what had happened on this shot. I actually touched on this on one of my previous videos. On my bow, I use one of the painted arrow mounts that holds my phone on my bow, so that way I'm able to record a hunt if I get the opportunity to press the record button. And on this hunt I did. And this doe, she moved. But what this allowed me to do is, after I gave her time, after I had made the shot, I went down and found my arrow, and unfortunately it didn't really have any blood on it. It had a faint amount of blood, and most people know that when you, like muscle blood, it has a distinct like smear to it. It's not thick, it's not heavy, it's kind of slimy. And it was just the faintest amount that I had here on the veins. And then I walked in the direction that she had went, and no blood. Couldn't find any blood for 100 yards. And it was pretty disappointing. So then your mind starts to go crazy, right? And so I was able to take the video footage from my phone and look at it and figure out what had happened. And going through it and playing back the shot and just breaking it down frame by frame, seeing the arrow in flight, and then watching it clip the top of her back, and then also at the same time her moving and her ducking, and just the arrow went into that zone to where she's going to live. The other thing that I did that was a pretty handy tool in Michigan, I can't remember the name of the Facebook group, but there is a Facebook group dedicated to deer trackers, and they post every year, and I think they do it every couple weeks because so many people ask about it. They post an image of the state of Michigan, Lower Peninsula and Upper Peninsula, with numbers on it for guys and gals that have dogs available in those regions. And the gentleman I called up, he was a huge help, because for me, I was not willing to give up on this deer. I felt bad enough that the shot and wasn't great, and so I wanted to get a deer tracker out because that's not what I want to do. I'm not about wounding animals. I don't want to even let meat go to waste if the shot was mortal and the deer went down. So I spoke with a deer tracker, and the beautiful thing about it was I was able to give him images of the arrow, images of the shot as I broke it out frame by frame, and him and I discussed what had happened. I mean, he was asking questions, which I mean, to me blew my mind. He was asking like shot angle, distance, equipment I'm using, poundage of my bow, because he's seen this so many times over that he can get a relative idea of what he's looking at before he even gets there. Him and I went over it. We went over the shot, how high I was in the tree, distance, equipment, and we both came to the conclusion that it was not a mortal wound on this deer. And sure enough, it wasn't, because she showed up about a week later with her yearling in the food plot, munching on ryegrass like nothing had ever happened. So she lives to see another day. Maybe not though, because I'm gonna go back out there and I'm gonna try to get her again. But she's gonna be knowing, so that's gonna be the tough part. But it was a great tool, two great tools to be able to have the video, to be able to go back and replay the shot, and also have somebody to talk to that has seen this again and again and has the experience to know what you're looking at before you even really know what you're looking at. And it was just an added benefit, and it's low cost. I mean, like the painted arrow mount's very cheap, and it works. And then even just the quick phone call to a deer tracker to help put a hunter at ease, to let him know like, hey, yep, we're gonna go find this deer, or hey, I think that deer's alive. And to me that helped, because like I said, I'm not about wounding animals. I want to make sure that it's an ethical shot, that it's a clean shot, but at the same time I made a mistake. So my lesson learned on my part. But plenty of hunting season left. I'm excited to get back out in the woods. We got a cold front coming up this weekend, which is going to be great because temps are going to be in the 70s again here for the next couple days, and it looks like Friday, Saturday, we drop off into the 50s, which is perfect. So I hope all you guys can maybe learn something from my mistake, that deer move, they will duck the string, or they might not duck the string. That's the tough thing about deer hunting. But if you have those tools in your quiver, like even if you have a GoPro or something like that, and then just a quick number reference for a deer tracker in your area, those two little things can take what's a super stressful night of thinking that you have to grid search completely until 5 in the morning and turn it into, hey, this deer's okay. She's a lot tougher than you are, because if you took an arrow off the back, you're going to cry and whine about it, whereas she's just like, whatever, it's another day in Michigan. And turn it into a not so stressful night. Still bummed out because my freezer's getting a little low, but there's plenty more deer season and plenty more deer out in the woods. So you guys have a great rest of your deer season, and have a great night. Let's put some deer down. Have a great night, everybody.